Hey, folks, it's Carl Choi. I am the co-creator, co-founder, publisher of 24/7 Comics, and we're about to present a really special segment. In fact, we've wanted to do this for a very, very long time. 24/7 Comics have been in existence for about 5 years now, and we've had a few books out, and we're about to embark on our third campaign. And so we thought this would be just a perfect time to bring on two very special guests to embark on this little journey called Old School, New School. What's up, guys?
Hey,
What's
how's it
up?
going?
What's up?
So I introduced myself already. Sean, why don't you share who you are and your little journey? And I think, who are you? Years active in major publishing, and then kind of what titles did you work on, and what was some of the first title and memories you could share?
Okay, I'm Sean Chen. I've been in this industry for probably like 30 years. Started out at Valiant Comics. So the book I did there was Rye in the Future Force #9 to begin with. And that one sold getting up towards 1 million copies, because that was the time when everything was selling 1 million copies. And then moved from there to Harbinger, and then to Exo-Man War. So from there, I think it was like 4 years at Valiant, and then I moved to Marvel, and I took over Iron Man for 3 years with Kurt Busiek. So that's Iron Man Volume 3. And then after that, I did Wolverine, and then pretty much bounced around all over Marvel doing a little bit of every one of their characters for a while. Then I dipped out to do advertising. Did some stuff at DC, did advertising for like maybe close to a decade. And then now back after kind of falling in love with the medium of comics really for the first time. Because before it was really just like a cool job where you get to draw superheroes. But now I kind of see it as an art form and a way to tell stories. So now I'm writing and drawing my book Evermind for 24/7 Comics.
Cool, and we'll get to that later. Welcome, Wildstorm, as well as Second. And CREEES, I'll pass the same question to you. How long have you been in comics? Who are you? Years active, and then what titles have you worked on?
So I'm CREEES. I've been drawing comics for 5, 6 years now, and then Marvel stuff has been the past 3 years. It's like very new. And then the titles, the one that I started off with, I actually started with covers first. And then, was it covers? Or it was the Marvel Voices. Did a 5-pager about, what was it? I forget his name. Anyways, the Marvel Voices, and then some covers. And then that led on to like the Marauders, new Marauders, and then Tiger Division was like my big first title, which was fun. And then Iron Man, took over Sean's book. And then just a little bit here and there. So yeah.
So inheritance. Okay, cool. I love that. And it's kind of cool. And that's why we thought this would be such a fun conversation, just because years active wise. I mean, Sean, would you say, like, what would be the time span of years active? Because if CREEES was the last 5 years, you're saying like what, 2000 till 2025, CREEES, or 1999 till?
It was in the late 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, like around 97. I'm not sure. I'm not good with dates, but yeah, it was. The important thing to know is that was the height of the comics boom, and that really helped me get hired, because they were kind of hiring everyone because they need to. Anything they put out would sell. So that helped me get in. And then while I was there, I learned how to draw much better. And I think after a while, I kind of earned my spot there. Whereas before, it was kind of just, get everyone who can draw to fill some pages. So.
Okay. So one of the questions we had today was, and this really helps you guys get a kind of landscape of the time you guys were active as well. So I guess, CREEES, why don't you go first? Yeah. What are some of the most notable names you've worked with thus far?
Worked with?
Yes. Notable names in comics.
Well, Jerry Duggan. Okay, so if I'm being honest, like, I haven't read a lot that's like up to date, or like a lot enough to know like a lot of these names. And then most of the names I knew were artists. So the writers that I got to work with weren't people that I really knew.
That's
But,
interesting. Well, see,
yeah.
with in new school is a little different, right? So continue. Drop some
Yeah.
names, even if they're writers that you worked with that we may or may not know. It'd be cool for us.
Yeah.
To,
So I mean,
Go-
there was like, I'm so bad with names. There was Jerry Duggan, which was the Iron Man.
Mm.
Oh shoot, I'm forgetting all these writers' names.
It's okay.
Yeah, Emily Kim.
I'm okay. Okay, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. You know, there's just so many.
Yep, it's fine. Ron, how about you? How about what are some of the more memorable, kind of notable names you worked with?
Oh, well, I guess the one that people most know me for is Iron Man. So that was Kurt Busiek, and so he's the one who did. He was like really big for Astro City and Marvels, and then also Dan Jurgens on Superman and Superman related stuff, Batman Beyond. Also Dan Slott for a lot of the Avengers stuff that I did. John Ostrander, I did Ryan the Future Force with him. And Frank Thierry for Wolverine for a lot of it. So yeah, just like a little bit of work with everyone. I guess the biggest name I once did, I worked for Marvel's creative services department. So they put in like they make little custom comics for whatever reason. And I think there was a movie coming out and they were going to put some kind of a mini comic inside the DVD case. And that was actually written by Stan Lee. So I actually worked with Stan Lee.
Wow. That's kind of cool. That's kind of badass. But don't let CREEES humility fool you. This guy worked on a Batman Max cover that he didn't brag about. So you know what's interesting? Now, if I asked you, CREEES, who did you work with editorially? Then you could probably answer that pretty quickly, right?
I mean, Lindsay Kohick.
There we go. Okay.
Lindsay Kohick. Then there was. Oh, geez, these names. I just see their emails, so it's just like.
I get it. See, that's interesting. So let's double.
Darren Sean.
Who is this?
Darren Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ricky Purdon. He's like my savior.
Okay, there we go.
So that offered me like the jobs.
So number one, I think Sean, you're a little familiar with this now. I think it'd be kind of cool to talk about behind the scenes how things have changed, right? Because when my understanding is back in the day when you guys are in the bullpen, you're in the same office with the writers, right? Or at least you have interaction with them directly. But my understanding today, I mean, CREEES, would you describe what the process would be like when we're making a comic book?
My process is literally like an email, and then they're like, "Hey, are you free to work on this?" And then we have like something cooking up, like, "Are you free?" And then I'll be like, "Yes," and then they send me the script, and then just go from there. It's all like no face to face.
Oh man.
So it's like it's weird when I go to like cons, and then they're like, "Hey, I'm this person." It takes me like a moment because I know their email, but then I don't know their name, in a sense. And then they mentioned that they're in some kind of like a certain section of Marvel. It's like the Spider-Man team or something. I was like, I never worked on Spider-Man like officially, but then they're part of that team. So I'm like, are they confusing me with someone else? But then, I look back on the emails. I'm like, oh, they were like in the CC, but they just never like replied. And then, yeah, everything's like digital, just like emails back and forth. And then
so interesting. So you could even safely say you haven't met a lot of people you work with.
I think so.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. I've met like the big editors here and there. Like they came and like introduced themselves and stuff at like conventions, but like some of the I don't want to say like the co-editors, maybe some of them I still haven't like met. So
wow.
Yeah.
So the modern day kind of stars or the guys who kind of drive things forward are pretty much the editors. And I don't know, Sean, want to share a little bit about your memories early on, and then kind of maybe what it evolved to, and maybe some insight into how you think it has evolved to this now.
Well, surprisingly, a lot of it is the same as what CREEES described in terms of not knowing everyone on your team very well. For me, I thought it was important in order to get a job, to actually show my face and actually show them the work. So I would actually stalk editors at conventions and show them my stuff, and then try to get any type of invite to get to the office. And then once I get to the office, I would try to show a lot of the editors there. So there was like a lot of like, the goal was to get into the Marvel offices, which, you know, really wasn't like Fort Knox like it is now. You can actually just come in off the street, and then but you'd have to like get into New York City. So I took every opportunity when I grew up in Washington, D.C. to come up to the Marvel offices and show them my work. And I think for most people, they might meet an editor at a convention, but a lot of the relationships are just still over email. And maybe, I don't know, was email in the very beginning? Like, there's a lot of phone calls, a lot of faxes. And I think Marvel would have like a retreat where you would go, if you're the part of the creative team for a book, you would actually meet at this one location in a hotel. And then you kind of, for like a couple of days or 3 days, have a big meeting about the next big initiative that you're part of. And that's where you would meet the editor and the writer and discuss ideas. And I've been to a couple of those. I don't think I ever opened my mouth, but I mean, I would hear all the ideas and everything. And yeah, I remember many times actually I moved to New York expressly to work for Marvel, just to be able to go to the offices. And, you know, I think a lot of people make a big deal about working from home and being able to work from home. And, but to me, like, Marvel was like always a big dream to work there. And then I don't think that fulfilling the dream is really just like getting an assignment over email and then just working from home. It really is going to the office and then just like the excitement of who you might meet in there. Like, I've met like Frank Miller was in the office, like, and a lot of big names just like walking around, and you're like, oh, was that so-and-so? That's a big part of the experience of drawing comics, and to try to get in there as much as possible to kind of insert yourself, and then to get invited to their big holiday party, which I've been to a few of them. And that was a big part of the fun. And the rest of it, I mean, it doesn't really have to be that way at all. Like, once you're in, you can just kind of, you know, like do what we do now, which is work from home. And then I think ever since I started working at Marvel, the goal was to get a lot of the creatives to work from home, because if they had set up a studio, you would be considered like a statutory employee, and then they have to pay for your health insurance. So a lot of that stuff, like, there was an attempt early on to get people not to come into the office. So I actually had to work to get in there and work to meet these people. And so once that was taken care of, I don't think that that desire ever wore off. I always still wanted to go. And we kind of do by going to conventions now. We go to conventions to do the same thing, just to meet the editor and maybe catch a glimpse of Frank Miller and maybe talk to him. So that's how it was then. Then we would just draw the stuff, and then I think the way we delivered it was just to send it in by FedEx. And I think maybe sometimes the only time the editor sees the page for the first time is when it's done, and you send it in by FedEx, and then they'll if there's any correction, they will have people in the office to correct it, and then it goes on to the writer and inker. And so that's how it was done back then. It was all about this 11 by 17 page that just went down the line, and everyone kind of got their hands on it and worked on it.
Okay. CREEES, process wise.
Wait, sorry, I have a question. Did any art ever get lost when you sent it to FedEx?
Oh, I mean, I've actually lost work myself, but I mean, once you give it to FedEx, I think it's pretty safe. I mean, the typical thing is, like, I would go, since I live near the office, I would make an attempt to go into the office every Friday to turn in pages. And it was really not for that. I could send the pages in very easily by messenger, or just drop it off, or just mail it. But I actually want to get into the office and see if Frank Miller was there. And
awesome.
So yeah, I would actually lose pages by leaving them on a train, something like that. But the good thing is, even though we didn't have like scanners, you can go to any type of like bodega, and they'd have a Xerox machine, and you give them like 10 cents and you photocopy the page. So it always had a record of it. And so I guess before Marvel, Valiant actually had the newer artists come into the office. And I think that was their way of competing. Is like, there's like a lot of big name talent out there that you don't need them to come in because they're so good. It's like almost getting a movie role and not having to audition for it. But if you're new, Bob Layton or Barry Windsor Smith would probably want to see your stuff to see whether it's off the snuff before it gets turned in. And it was a good way for them to control the quality by just having what they call knob row, which is their artist alley area, artist bullpen area. And they just come around and see what we're doing and give us tips and pointers on storytelling and drawing. So that was great for me. I think even at that time, there were some artists like Joe St. Pierre, who I was working with, who just didn't want to be there. Like he just wanted to be working from home because he didn't want to have to like shower and take the train in for like an hour-long ride to get. But to me, like I couldn't wait to get to the office because you never know, Frank Miller might be there. So,
did you ever run into Frank?
Nope. Well, actually, I did run into him a couple times. Like usually at conventions though, and anyone who goes to a convention can run into Frank Miller, and he's really nice too. So
it's the hope that keeps you going. So, CREEES, when you, I guess the next question is, you heard kind of what the experience was like for Sean. Did you have any expectations like that before working in comics? Like, did you have like a dream, like, oh, one day I'm gonna get into the office, I'm gonna be able to run into Frank Miller, and did you have any preconception of what it would have been like to work in comics?
So the first time, I think, when I started figuring out like what work life would be like in comics was in college. And then by that time, it was like nobody could go to just the offices like on their own. If anything, being invited to go would have been like the next best thing, if you like knew somebody. And then, but like I still haven't been to the offices. And then what is it? Like it was just expected to just like work at home alone, kind of just email everything. And there wasn't any like sending in the artwork or anything like that. And then the like meeting the stars, I guess, like that was all at like conventions by the time like I found out about that kind of stuff. And so yeah, so I never had that expectation of like, oh, like I wish I could just stop by like into the office and get a job kind of thing. Like it was more just like go meet them at the cons, and then or like Twitter or something like that, and then get to know them online, and then like just send in your work kind of thing.
Crispy Papa had a great comment.
Hey, Crispy Papa.
CREEES wanted to run into his dad, Jim.
Yeah, I've been looking for him my whole life.
Have you run into him yet?
I did. I like a couple times now.
Nice.
But yeah, the first time I met him, I wanted to be like, Dad, but then I didn't want that to like ruin whatever relationship I can have with him in the future. So I just did not. But we did talk about Taco Bell, which was fun. So.
Why Taco Bell?
Because I know he likes Taco Bell and I love Taco Bell. It must, it runs in our blood. And then I didn't want to be like every other person at the con talking about drawing and stuff. And so, yeah.
I have a story about like me being so hungry to get into the offices. One time, there was a signing for a Sandman or something, or maybe like a Black Orchid, which is a Neil Gaiman book, and he was signing at a
Neil
bookstore.
Gaiman.
Yeah, so when I met him, I showed him some work, and I think just to be nice, is like, oh yeah, this is really nice. You should show them to Karen Berger. That's all I had to hear, because then I can call Karen Berger, and I said, Neil Gaiman said that that you should see my work, which is, he was just saying that to be nice. But it got me in, so I showed my work to Karen Berger, and then while I was there, Neil Gaiman came in, and so Karen Berger was like, "Oh, so you know Sean, right?" And then he looked at me, and he's like, "No," but the thing is, I was trying to find.
Oh my god.
Maybe if I were
maybe if you're you want the right preference for him.
But yeah, that's normally I'm a very introverted guy. I'm usually kind of shy, but I was so desperate to get into the business that I would do things like that. And technically, it wasn't a lie. He did say you should show this to Karen Berger, but even though I knew he was just trying to be nice, that was the official word that I needed to have a meeting with her, and she would have to take it because Neil Gaiman said so. And the fact that he showed up was kind of just a little bit unfortunate, but I got into DC office that way.
That's kind of cool. I mean, there's a bit of as much as you're pretty chill, Sean. Like you're talking about a very like hustler side of Sean Chen. Yeah, like because I feel like by the time we met, you're already established. work's coming to you, etc. Now, CREEES, what's the hustler side of you that you remember kind of early on to
Mine was trying to, so like right after college, it was like trying to go to shows like Comic Cons. So signing up for all the local Comic Cons, which is actually where I met Sean. And then it was doing the cons and then also like streaming on Twitch, just trying to get as many eyes on my work. So it was like that, and then posting on like Instagram, like working on all those things. And then at the time, like it was hard for me to look for these editors' names and stuff. And then like I didn't really know them. And then I didn't really use Twitter. And so it's hard for me to like reach out on Twitter because I also had like nothing on Twitter. But then it was going to the cons and then like submitting my portfolio for the DC or Marvel like review submissions and then trying to get that. And I remember like one of the first things was like like Adobe had like a Marvel collab, and then they were looking for like 6 artists that used like Adobe programs, and then you submit your stuff. And then I remember I got to like the semifinal like with interviews and stuff, and then they asked me like, oh, what's your process like? And then I said I do like 99% on paper and I use Adobe to edit it at the end. And then they were like, like we're looking for more like digital artists.
Oh no.
They did say like, I remember them saying like yours was like the best one, was like one of the best ones out of all the submissions, but then I didn't get it because I did everything on paper.
All right, let's have a discussion, because I would say I would kind of expect, and even I think the team wrote it into our kind of promotional material, that this would have been like a huge discussion surrounding like traditional art on paper versus digital. But CREEES, in that way, you're kind of old school, right? And Sean, you've kind of become a little bit more new school in the way you work too. So let's have a discussion. I mean, like, why?
Okay. Well, okay. For me, I actually do a hybrid thing. I tried drawing digitally. It doesn't really work for me. I don't think like people remember back in the day when paper stock was very important. Like there's 2 types of paper. There's plate and then there's vellum. So vellum has like a tooth to it. So it's like drawing on rougher paper. So a lot of artists like it. And then vellum is like super smooth. And it was like a big deal, like which one you would choose. Well, drawing digital is so far even, you know, to the spectrum left of that, which is like drawing on glass. And that just does not work for me at all. But so I kind of do a hybrid process now where most of the lines I draw, like 90% of the lines are actually drawn with ink pen on paper. But then it all gets sent up into Photoshop and then it gets finished up. I would say like maybe 30% of the work is still digital, which is mostly moving around all those pen lines that I make until they're in the right place. So I think any artist who draws only on paper and the original and they can sell the original, they're probably not giving you their best work, because you know, if you take any artist and they draw, they ink something, ink is permanent, right? So when it's done, if you ask them like, is there anything you would do to improve it? If they say like, no, this is as good as it gets, I really killed it on this page, then the original's fine. But then if they can say like, well, you know, one eye is higher than the other, well, then you got to put it in Photoshop and then move that eye down. It's very easy to do. The fact that they don't do it is because the original is worth money. So for me, I do draw traditionally, then it gets scanned in, and then that means like it gets manipulated so much that the pencil original is no longer original anymore, because it's evolved away from that. So I don't have an original cell, and there is because of the digital process. And then I actually spend a lot of time drawing traditionally, but because it's a hybrid, there is really no original to sell. So my goal there is to just deliver the best work so that the work looks as good as possible. Digital is good for doing layouts because you can just move things around, like increase the head size by 20%. Like you can't really do that easily when you're working traditionally. And then I think it's bad for is drawing the lines for me are really hard to draw with the stylus. So I don't do that part digitally. But then once I scan it in, it's very easy to move, enlarge things, and correct lines, smooth out lines. Like I said, like a lot of times one eye is higher than the other, and then you can easily just lasso it and move it down until everything checks out to you and looks, to your eyes perfect. So that hybrid thing really is it's become my process, and I would love to transfer it over entirely digitally, but I've never been able to because I can't draw on glass. So I'm kind of stuck in a place where in order to get this best work, I have to use both tools, and then have no originals for sale, really. So,
interesting. So, CREEES, you want to respond to that? Is it economically driven, or is this process you prefer? And then, do you feel like you're killing yourself every time you finish a page because it's not perfect? Curious.
So I feel like I give my best work on paper, but no, I do see what you mean, because there are definitely, things that I want to improve on after I finish a page. There's always like things that stick out, like as mistakes or things that aren't as good as I think it could be. But I don't know, my OCD, I think, hates to mix the the materials and like have the final scan be different than the original bothers me. And so like that's where I think that trumps it not being better, because like I was, even in school too, like they were pushing like don't focus on fixing mistakes on the previous like pages, just keep moving forward and like fix them as you do those pages in the future. Like there's always going to be opportunities to like improve in the future, so it's like don't like worry about the small stuff. If it's clear storytelling, that's like the main thing, so then like don't spend too much time. But then yeah, I think for me it's also been very helpful selling originals and having that to sell. So it's like, yeah, financially it definitely helps, especially like starting off when all the rates are so low. And then, yeah, it's just like that one thing I think within like the comic industry, or like as comic fans, there are definitely a lot of like original art,
Okay.
like buyers.
Yeah, it is.
So there's a lot more interest in that than like I think a lot of other fields. So it's like I could learn digital and maybe increase the process speed, but at the same time, when I draw digitally, it's like I can't get the right feeling. It doesn't look like how I want it to look. Even when I draw digitally, like I'll use like the pencil tool, or like not like a clean line tool, because I like the graininess of it or something. And so it has more of that original art look to it, even when I digitally edit.
I have a few thoughts, but before I do that, before I share, I want to just highlight a few folks in the chat. Kevin Tran, also an artist himself, has been a regular on our channels. Green from Melbourne, obviously. Crispy, always been a great supporter. Thank you for that. David Sue, what's up, David Sue? Is this MTG, David?
Yeah, that's David.
Yeah, get playing again. Sean, we have to get you to learn to play Commander so we could
Ooh,
get into it.
that'd be so fun.
Jedi B said he do prefer the sketch on paper first, but he did say that's kind of what he does. I guess however Sean described his process. Golf likes that hybrid approach. And then Joggers 95, thanks for coming in to say hi. Hello as well. And then sorry for the spam, guys, but I am here to also help promote CREEES' upcoming Kickstarter campaign called Bladesmith, which we'll get into later as well. What's up, guys? What's up, Joggers? Hey, Kevin. What's up, man? Welcome. Thanks for making time. And yes, we should jump on MTG Arena. Maybe that's the next stream. So a couple of thoughts. It's interesting just seeing kind of, at least from what I know of how you guys got into the industry. I know, Sean, you've told the story before. But in a way, you're kind of like drafted, like at a convention, like Barry Windsor Smith found you, kind of loved your work and brought you into the fray and spent a lot of time with you. And then at this on CREEES' side, his is more almost like going through the system, right? You went through the contest, you went through the submission.
Yeah,
it's so interesting. It's like one's a little bit more organic, kind of just maybe that's just the way the system was before. And then one was very technical, like kind of like you're going for like a TikTok dance competition kind of thing. So it's kind of like that. But what's interesting though, Sean, like as I hear you speak about kind of your pursuit of perfection. That's one thing I know about you, because you're an architect, by trade, right? So you're really big on perfection. And someone else I know that kind of is similar is Barry Windsor-Smith, who is known to actually go back and rework his art after he's done with it. And so, do you feel like because of that relationship and who drafted you, that rubbed off on you one way or another? And it's interesting. And now I'll hear from CREEES after, but we'd love to hear your thoughts first, Sean.
I think it was probably always in me, even before I met Barry. I think Barry is actually quite organic, and he did also give me the advice to kind of move on. Like I was showing him something that I had trouble with, and then he says, like, look, Sean, you get the point. The story's getting across. You should just move on and just, because we gotta publish this. So it's kind of always been there. I think I don't like that about myself, but the thing is, like, it's very hard to get into this industry. Very few people actually make it all the way in, and whatever attitude or behavior I had is what led me here. I think the way a lot of us draw is like you have your draftsmanship ability, and then your eye, or your eye that can actually scrutinize it for problems. And I think I always had my discerning eye was always ahead of my ability. So that just means that everything that I drew was kind of unacceptable. So I had to do it again and do it again until I was happy with it. And then you would think it'd be smooth sailing after that, except for the fact that your eye actually gets even better, and then it kind of leaves behind your drawing ability. So it's always, your drawing ability is always trying to catch up. And it's really unhealthy. It's actually a very toxic way to work. But I'm here today, so it must have did something. And I actually know that CREEES is also kind of like that, because I think the last question I asked you on your stream is like you mentioned something about working a little bit slower now. Yeah. And I think it's not because you're goofing off more. It's just that I think that what's happening is your eye is getting more discerning, and it won't tolerate what you've been doing in the past. So you spend a little bit more time to get it up to the right level. Yeah. And just so you know that never goes away. But the thing is, that was a good sign, because it just shows that you're one of those people that get better and better with time. And I think we've all seen artists that kind of just plateau and they just kind of stay stagnant forever. And they can work really fast. So, it's either be that type of person or be the one that you actually can see the flaws in your work and working to get better and better. And I thought that eventually I'll get to the point where I'll just be able to crank it out, but it never really got there. So for me, sometimes it's like because of the subject matter that I draw, it's 3 days to do a page, mostly because there's so many robots and everything. And it's very high-tech future stuff. But it's something that I like doing, and I like the results, and I think that kind of keeps me going. And perfection is not something that's really achievable, but I think the pursuit of it is actually what makes you better. And then you have to kind of decide where it's holding you back and when it's working in your favor.
Yeah, it's funny. As you described, Barry Windsor-Smith's telling you to move on is one of those like, do as I say, not as I do. It's definitely because I collecting original art, literally like at least 2 or 3 out of 10, like it'll be these like 30-year-old, 40-year-old covers, and it'll always say like with additional reworks by Barry Windsor-Smith himself.
Really?
So I guess the whole kind of word is he always goes back after some time, looks at it, if he's not happy with it, he'll like literally draw over a published cover, which is like a big no-no. But it seems like as an artist, he gives a rat's ass. He just wants to make it perfect like he loves it. So CREEES, question for you. Yeah. Now hearing from that, like with Sean, like rather as good advice, bad advice, do as I say, not as I do. Do you kind of wish you had a mentor in that way, like, or have you found that in different ways during your journey?
I mean, when I went to school, like Klaus Janson was one of my like favorite teachers there.
Oh, oh, he's
And
a
he was the
teacher. I didn't know
most
that.
helpful. Oh yeah, so
Oh, wow.
I happened to take his class without knowing who he was until I went into class and I did some research, and I was like, oh my god, like, and then yeah, so I chose this class by accident, and then it turned out like he basically like when I did the first assignment, he like said it was like crap, basically. Like, what is this? This isn't storytelling. And then basically learned everything like from like rebuilt my foundation on like how to storytell and stuff. And then so he was like so helpful and he's so knowledgeable and everything and stuff. So he was kind of like my mentor. And then even after graduating, I kept in touch and like would ask him stuff here and there, would meet up with him, and then yeah. So in a ways I kind of had that. And so like, but sometimes, you know, I feel like he's too nice to be super critical. But then through that, through like him and like, I got to know like people at like Essential Sequential like early on and stuff. And then,
That makes sense.
you know, yeah, like all those artists there were like huge inspirations, and they were just like, I was able to like share my work through them, and then got critiques from them, a lot more like honest critiques, I think, because I knew them. And then so like I feel like that all helped out. So it's
Oh,
not
wow.
like, yeah.
So Klaus kind of plugged you in then into industry in that way.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it was a weird thing. It was like I was a junior in college, and then one of my classmates was actually his apprentice at the time. And then for New York Comic Con, they needed help. So my friend asked me and another friend if we wanted to help. And then we got to help out. Like I got to help out like Sean Murphy and like Matteo and like Eric Canetti. And I was like meeting them all for the first time and just like watching them work on the commissions and stuff. And then I was like, it was like mind blowing to see how good they were even back then. So
Cool.
yeah. And then I got to know them through that basically.
Okay, so on the topic of apprenticeship, then Sean, like, do you feel like it is an important part of a creator's journey?
I do. I mean, I actually had three mentors that were spent like quite a bit of time with me. So Barry Windsor Smith was the one I kind of mentioned the most. Bob Layton is probably one that had the most effect on me because of the sheer amount of time that we worked together. And then also the knowledge that I had to learn. He's the one he's the guy that would be able to teach me all the stuff that I'm like the weakest at, because I was more like a fine artist before then. And Barry Windsor Smith also worked in that style. It was very pre-Raphaelite.
True.
So in a sense, we were just kind of like kind of kindred spirits and liking the same thing. But what I really needed help on is a lot of the nuts and bolts storytelling stuff that was traditionally comics. And so Bob helped with that. Before that, before I met those two, was David Mazzucchelli was a person that spent a lot of time. I would see him at conventions, and he was very generous with his time. And you know, I've been to his place. He would show me. He showed me original Dark Knight pages and stuff. And he's an excellent teacher. So I think he actually teaches maybe at SVA or something.
Yeah. So I was trying to take his class in senior year, and this class filled up. So.
Yeah, it's in a very short amount of time. I think with all of those guys, you don't really need to take a semester with them. It's just basically a few hours with them, and they will teach you everything you need to know. And David Mazzucchelli, I'm not sure how much I am a product of those three people, the fact that they were all very good teachers. If that really made a big difference in me getting into the industry. But yeah, I think it is very important, and it's something that's kind of lost now because the studio system is gone and everyone's kind of working on their own. So, but we have YouTube now, so hopefully that makes up for it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, actually, Golf Boys Sunday had a very good question. Would love to get you guys' insights on the driving comic art style nowadays. Seems like there's a clear departure from the traditional house style. Who wants to go first?
Well, I would say whatever style you work in, I think, you know, people look at it, and if it has value, then it has value. There is kind of a move away from the traditional thing. And I think one of the guys like Sean Gordon Murphy, his style is kind of based on just being taking off from the traditional house style. It's so out there. But I think I see a lot of people who do that and just do it poorly. Like a lot of times, if Marvel and DC is like a club and you're trying to get in and you can't get in, you can always have like a very loud style. But the reason why he did get in, even though that's not a house style, is because his draftsmanship and his storytelling is so good.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter what style you work in, as long as it's good. For me, I'm not sure exactly how old school my style is. I kind of draw realistically, but I guess when you your work is out of vogue, you probably won't know it, and I think people kind of tell you it is. But so far, I think one of the things that helps me along is that I do love a lot of the current stuff that's out there now. Like I look at everything that comes out, and the really popular artists, I tend to like them all, and I try to draw like them, and I think that keeps you from stagnating. I think if you happen upon a style, like if you were drawing in the 70s and then you think you hit upon a perfect style and you don't like anyone else who come after you, or you don't look at current work, you can kind of just be stuck there, and then things just pass you by. And you can try to fake it and look at some Jim Lee stuff and try to Jim Lee up your stuff. I think people can always tell when that's happening. So I think the healthy thing for me is that I look at a lot of artwork and I get inspired by what the young kids like CREEES are doing. And I just find it very inspiring and try to incorporate that into my own work.
That's cool. CREEES, your thoughts on that? I mean, I remember early on your style was a certain way. It's evolved as well in the last for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I grew up like hearing a lot that my style was both Eastern and Western, kind of like a good mix, maybe. I never really saw the Eastern side until maybe like recently, where I think I see more when I look at more of the older house style stuff, and then like see the things that are coming out now, where it is very like Eastern influenced. It's like I would say it's like definitely closer to like what's coming out now. But I never like really like looked at like anime and was like, oh, I want to like incorporate that into my drawings. It was just, I think, a more natural thing. So I don't know, like I never like style. So like, but like when I was breaking in, it was already kind of normal that there wasn't really a house style anymore. So yeah, I don't know if that answered any.
Cool. And we'll kind of pivot into style and talk about style, because what's cool about Bladesmith, it's to me almost like a time capsule of your evolution.
Yeah.
But before we get into Bladesmith, I want to kind of add this to stage. Talk a little bit about 24/7 Comics and our journey together as a team. And
thanks, John.
Sean, you want to talk a little about Evermind? Because obviously our first Kickstarter, was it a year ago? Maybe like a year and a half ago, maybe. Oh my gosh, time flies.
Already?
Was for Evermind, yeah. And so when we talk about style, I think, in my personal opinion, this is Sean's career-defining works in art and storytelling. And so I want to give the viewers a little bit of insight into kind of a real quick plug on this experience as a creator.
So yeah, up until this, most of the work I've been doing is really like work for hire for Marvel. So another writer, a writer would write it, and I would just kind of try to figure out what's in their head and try to draw it, and then also draw it on the deadline. So with this thing, for the first time, I can actually slow down and actually discover, my voice in terms of the artwork, and then really writing kind of for the first time, even though I've been kind of preparing to write for like a couple of decades. I first took the Robert McKee workshop class like 30 years ago, intending to write one day, and then just kind of absorbing by osmosis every type of writing stuff out there. So so this is finally, it's based on an idea that from a drawing that I did that was it kind of generated some interest. People look at it and thought it had potential for a story, so we kind of built a story around it. So I'm just pouring everything I know up to this point in terms of drawing and art into this into this one work. So yeah, I think people should give it a try. And yeah, I'm like about 3/4 of the way through it, and it's going to end pretty strong. So it's hoping
It
for
looks
the best
great,
for it.
man.
Thanks.
I don't know how you feel, but
Yeah, and speaking of covers, we also had a bunch of covers. Great artists community. Jim Mahfood, Bella Ratchlin, DK Ron, Mateo Scalera is another guy that has a very like offshoot from the house style. But yeah, check it out on 247comics.com. Evermind are all available there. And then the second one we had was Zero Ghost, and I'll just kind of blast through Zero Ghost since no one else is here today representing that. But it's a book by Justin Jordan, Brian Ching, but why I want to share more about Zero Ghost was because within Zero Ghost, there's always these character cards that were a big hit at the New York Comic Con. And these are metal cards that highlight all the characters from the world of Zero Ghost. And because they were such a big hit, it looks like we're going to bring these to the next Bladesmith campaign, which we'll talk about a little bit more. And then Evermind campaign number 2, Sean will be bugging you to put some cards out to be part of the series, and so it's gonna be fun. It's kind of a, we've always left the storytelling to its own kind of worlds, letting the creators lead on that, but we always want a way to unite our kind of crew in 24/7, and it feels like these collectible character cards will be it. And so before I kind of flip through Bladesmith, this Ashcan edition was printed to 100 copies for Comic Art Expo this last week in Florida, and we are almost out. We have a few copies left, and maybe we could do a giveaway as well on the stream today. So we'll get to that later, but let me throw in the link for Bladesmith, folks. If you haven't checked out yet, what's going to be very important is you guys jump in and click notify me on launch, because the more followers we have, the more we could take down that algo wall that's out there and put CREEES and his team in front of as many audiences as possible. So yeah, CREEES, why don't you share a little bit more about this book, and I'll flip through it while you do.
It's actually crazy because I started drawing some of those pages on Twitch, so a lot of my viewers here know about the book because I started back then. And then when I told them it was going to launch, I think a good amount of people were excited to actually see it come to life now. So, yeah.
So as you kind of look at these pages, like, what does it make you think about when we talk about house style and kind of deviating from your personal evolution?
Me?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm like just looking at I don't like looking at my old work, to be honest. So it's just, I'm like inside a little cringing. But
I guess it's not perfect after all.
No, definitely. There's definitely room for improvement. But yeah, no, I mean, it was just a lot of fun to draw because the food stuff was always fun, and then action stuff. So it's like, I just remember having a lot of fun with it. And then now I'm just like looking at it being like, oh, if I draw that again, I feel like I can draw it different. But then there's something about like some of my old work where, like, because I've changed, my style's changed a bit. Like, there's something nice about some old stuff that I can't do anymore for some reason because it's just changed. But yeah, I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to see in a book form. I haven't seen that yet. So
yeah, we keep it very high quality. So a lot of folks ask us why the heck we print on some thick paper, and a lot of it's just because we value the work and we want you guys to value it as well.
I think the coloring is really nice on there because the way you draw the food and everything. I think in black and white it would look really. I think a lot of manga or manga, like Japanese manga, draws a lot. They draw a lot of food and they do a lot of very realistically. And then I thought it looked great from that standpoint. And then Will came in and just put in all that texture and everything.
So good. Like, it definitely makes it pop so much.
Yeah, especially this part. We're cooking the food.
Yeah, then the way you use the speed lines, like some of those panels, they're like vibrating with energy. Yeah, and I don't know how you draw that because it's hard enough to draw a person with outlines, but then you can't use outlines on those because they're all just kind of jiggly lines.
Yeah.
So how do you even get a figure out of that? Like, it just blew me away. I was trying to figure out how to do that because it's a very effective illusion that there's a tremendous amount of speed and energy going on.
Thank you. I definitely had to look up a lot of other artists.
Yeah.
And like Carl mentioned, like Daniel Warren Johnson, like amazing at those movements and still keeping like the structure of whatever is moving. So I think I was like, I have to like start dissecting his work more. So
Yeah, super fun. The food elements, the action. I mean, that's what this book is about. I mean, there was a lot of inspiration from Food Wars as well, right? I remember that
Yeah.
was one of the first references that you talked about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then recently there was the Korean show, the Culinary Chef Wars. I don't know if you guys saw that one.
My wife saw it. Yeah, my wife.
Oh yeah, that one's so fun too. Like that's like perfect because there's a guy that bases all of his dishes off of like old mangas, and so yeah, I don't know. We should add him into the story.
Yeah,
Good.
I think the book has a great tone to it. Like my book is very serious. Like it could have it's like a serious type of story. But when I was reading yours, I thought I was wondering how you can get these people who are just culinary chefs that have these utensils for cooking, like cooking knives, but also just be assassins as well. And I was like, I don't know how it's going to work. But then you figure out early on that there's a tone there that's a little bit tongue in cheek. Like
There is.
I like the fact that it goes back forever. Like this is like an age old thing where they train with these weapons. But they also train with making food. So like it wasn't just the cover. That was like part of their philosophy. And I thought that was kind of cool that he also had like it's almost like John Wick where you can learn to use all those weapons, but then you also have to learn how to cook really well. So
I compared to like if it was like John Wick and like Food Wars had a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's just pure fun. Like I said, the tone is not that serious. So it's just like one of those really fun type stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the way I always imagine as well. It's like I think CREEES and Justin and Linji they create this whole this John Wick meets Food Wars, and then I think Sean, yours is more of like a Westworld meets like Steven Spielberg movie, so it's a very epic sci-fi world build. So it's cool, and that's the most powerful thing about comics because one of the things I love about comics, and this is from Brian K. Vaughan is he believes that comics you could actually create for just a medium and not be restricted by any type of like budget, scope, timeline, because it allows for that. And I do feel like that's kind of why we all love comics, because in a way it's a peek into the future. Yesterday I was talking to a group about 1984 Barry Windsor Smith's Machine Man. And I didn't, it's obviously before my time, but when I read it, it's 40 years old, but dude, like they predicted so much on what was going to happen in 2020, and it's unbelievable. So it just says a lot about the ability for us to use comics to imagine what the future could look and feel like. And I'm gonna go to my next question for you guys, but before that, let's say hi to the audience. K-pop junkie, totally the homie. We love her. So thank you for that. Yep. Golf Boy said that as well. John Wick meets Food Wars. It's cool. So Crispy Papa recognized some of the pages as well. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Word of encouragement from Peter Steves CREEES said you got this.
Thank you.
He also said to bring out the AI. So not sure if that's the right way to go. Yeah, it's definitely been like a controversial topic for sure.
Yeah.
Like let's say AI and whatnot. Who else is here? Oh, Michael. Here we go. Congrats on getting interviews.
Dr. Midnight.
Oh, nice. Dr. Midnight. What's up, Dr. Midnight? There we go. Think they were a ton of fun. All right. We got a question from Crispy Papa. Sean, how long did you hold on to the Evermind bow idea before Carl was able to convince you to turn it into a comic series?
I think I didn't have a story concept. It was basically just a drawing. Because back then I was just an artist, so my stock and trade was just visual stuff. So there was a drawing of the main characters, which is that robotic gorilla and the robotic girl together as a pinup, And it was really just to give myself something to draw to show in a sketchbook. But then when there was interest in it, people want to know like, well, what is this characters about? Because it looks like they can adapt it for either a movie or something. And there was just kind of some interest into, they want to know more. And I told them I didn't have any more because as an artist, I don't really handle that part. So I just draw stuff. So I was just trying to draw the coolest image that I can come up with. So that existed for a while. That's like maybe like a quarter century old. But then when Carl said that he wanted to expand it into an actual story, well, that's when I had to share the brick and actually figure out what it's about. And I think it took a while for both of us to hash out some ideas, like what kind of stories would lead to this image. And I really didn't know whether I can come up with anything. And if I didn't come up with anything good, then I would just have to say like, well, I got nothing. So, if you have a writer come on board or something, I can draw whatever a writer. But then we did come up with an idea that was, that had a lot of promise. And I was wondering, like, when I start drawing it, am I going to get bored of this idea? And strangely, I haven't yet. And this process started like a few years ago. So it's still, I'm just kind of charging through all these pages. And, for a lot of my time working for Marvel and DC, I would kind of lose interest in whatever I was working on, sometimes within half an issue. Like, I don't really need to do any more. I did Iron Man for 3 years. And for a lot of the time, it's like, well, I'm just the artist here. But with this, there's, because storytelling is so dynamic and so creative, I thought I would never really have anything as interesting as drawing. Drawing was kind of it for me. But then lately, in the past 5 years or so, like, writing has taken on an equal amount of interest for me. So this is like one of those things where, I had the idea from a visual standpoint, and then the idea now is a story, and it's been going on for like maybe 3 years now since we first started.
Yeah, no, and Michael, I think, speaks for all of us when we all say we're looking forward to more issues of Evermind. So with that said, I have some prepared questions about you guys' own creator experience. And so, CREEES, why don't I just kind of start with you first? Actually, for both of you, but you can answer first. So why is this the story you felt motivated to tell? Obviously, in the structure of, being part of the big two and major publishers, often you're handed the script. Hey, do you have time for this? Okay, here's the script. And then you're going to draw it. So why was this the story that you decided to kind of make it like your first baby, right?
Yeah. I'm like, food is so good. Like, I love trying foods when I go to cons, right? Like, I experience places through food. And then I think at the time too, I was like actually watching Food Wars. So, that like this, like, being able to draw food in comics, I thought would be super fun, just straight off. And then the fact that it was like action too. And then when I was talking with like, Linji and Justin, like talking about the project before I even like got on board with it, they were talking about having it like, very lighthearted moments in the action. And then I'm like a huge fan of old Jackie Chan movies, like the Drunken Master movies and things like that. And like, it's like everything I liked was kind of put into this project. And then it was just, I don't know, it was an easy hook for me to just say yeah, because it just seems so fun to draw. And then when we got into like the lore of it too, it's like I get to draw cool weapons and stuff. Like, that's sick. And so it's just like there was nothing boring about it, So I was like very easy. It was very easy to say yes to this project.
It's awesome. And I put the link, guys, to the Kickstarter campaign. There's a pre-launch page, and we could use all the followers we can get. So just click on follow or click on notify me when on launch. And we're going for 200. So we're about 44 away. So if you you got click the follow, then send it to a friend, we would really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I was the same way, CREEES, when I came across the project. The food was one element, but like the knives, dude, like there's so many different kinds of knives and fighting styles when it comes to knives that made it like such a super interesting project. And I think what's cool about it too, and we won't spoil it, and we'll probably get into it a little bit more next week on the launch stream. The story itself will not be what people expect, right? Like as much as people think they know, oh, it's kind of like Kingsman, instead of being soup painters or chefs. But I think there's so many layers of the characters and even the way the story is being told that would be really powerful. So Sean, how about you? Same question. What has motivated you to keep telling the story, and why Evermind?
Well, like I said, most of my work was kind of work for hire, and they would hire me as an artist. So I think you're the first person who said, like, well, I want you to write this as well, because I think we kind of got to know each other, and we would discuss ideas. And I think you probably saw some germ of like a potential of a writer there. I think, so that creative freedom that comes with doing your own project. It's one thing to work for Marvel and DC. That's like a big feather in your cap. But then if you were to let's say, graduate from that, like what's better than that? And that's basically creating your own IP. And I'm not so concerned, like maybe no one would see it. But the thing is to get in there and wrestle with writing your own story and coming up with something. So in the beginning, when we first started doing this, the story, to me, it was kind of very agnostic about, because we kind of figured out what a good plot would be. And then when it's time to start, I was kind of worried, because that's a lot of work. It's a very difficult stuff to draw. I didn't really know whether I can make it all the way through, because of just, the story is kind of like pretty cool. But it's when we started thinking about the character, that's when it really came to life to me. The character of Lucas Zhang and being a scientist, and I made him like a very flawed person, and his complex relationship with his daughter. And then the story started to really come to life. And now, like I found out that a plot is not enough to get someone excited, and it's not enough to carry through all that years of work. But when it comes to developing character, that's where it's at. And you really can't do that much if someone else writes your story for you. So we I think the typical thing is like Lucas Zhang is Asian, and I didn't really know until you told me he was Asian. So he was. I think the first rule when it comes to handling these things delicately is like, if you're gonna have an Asian character, don't make him a scientist. Also, don't give him any flaws that make your race look really bad. He is a scientist, and he is a highly flawed person, and I feel bad for Daniel Wu. Daniel Wu is the model for this character, and I kind of really run him through the ringer, but he's been a really good sport about it, and he's on board with everything, even though I give him some pretty serious flaws, and he does not have a good relationship with his daughter in the story. So that's the whole idea is that's what they're working through. So
no, it's great. I think it's been fun too, even just sitting in some of the development meetings with you and Daniel talking about this. Both of you guys have daughters, and so just kind of hearing about the what ifs in a way, because we all know, like, Daniel basically took some time to be with his family, away from kind of superstardom, and that was kind of perfect timing, because at the same time, that's when he was exploring what was next. Evermind as a story would have been the perfect one for him to really be part of, helping build something that would be a role he could potentially play a decade from now, right? And so it was a really fun process, and it was cool to hear you two kind of putting a lot of your like personal heart and experience into all the narrative. So we're about an hour in, and so it was great just kind of hearing from you guys, your backgrounds, your journey into the comic book industry. Obviously, your experience working with the machines were very different between you guys two, and I think different times, but also a lot of similarities, right? And I think we also highlighted the importance of apprenticeship, like having the right guys that did it before you lead you into what you're doing. And thank you guys for sharing your creator experience. We are going to come back next week to do a launch stream. But before we go, let's just say hi to the rest of the crew real quick here. Golf Boy says Sean has very underrated writing skills. I agree. I think anyone who writes and has read it will know. K-Pop Junkie, thank you for sharing this around. We are at 157. So can we get to 160 by the end of the stream, guys? The link is down there. Please just press notify me on launch. We'd be very thankful. And then interesting one here. We could do a little quick wind down conversation. Anyone wonder if Sean drew issue of placement and CREEES drew issue of Evermind?
I don't know if I can draw all that tech stuff.
You never know. You never know.
Maybe a cover.
And I have no interest
That's
in growing
awesome.
food, so
That's funny. So we did also say, all right, we'll also say hi to Sir Duke Nukem, and then
What's up? What's up?
Kevin. What's up, guys? We also have Cisco Kid, and then Worldwide Antibody. Okay, I don't know what that is. But yeah, man, I agree, Peter Steves. Very inspiring. Dream on, Golf Boy Sunday. You could keep bottling this collaboration. So we could do a quick giveaway. So since we have a bunch of viewers here, what's a good way to do giveaways? Do you ever do giveaways, Chris? And I
Yeah.
think what we'll do is we'll do a giveaway of
Me.
this guy here. So we have 100 copies. I think I have a very small stack we're bringing over to Comics Pro next month. We also preview you guys that the reason we're going to Comics Pro is we will start having 24/7 comics in retailers. So we're gonna ask you guys to go support once they're in store. It's a really big step for us. It's been 5 years in the making, and we really want to make sure that we don't put books on the shelves that won't sell. So the first book to hit will be Evermind, and then it'll be in the order of our Kickstarter campaign, followed by Zero Ghost, and then Bladesmith from there. So, Chris, lead us on this giveaway. How do we do this?
So I don't know where you're streaming through, but I can do one off of my Twitch channel.
Okay.
But
So-
then people should come to my Twitch real quick just to join.
All right, folks, go to.
Not trying to advertise my Twitch channel.
You should advertise your Twitch channel. We're advertising Bladesmith. So, guys, if you don't see the link, just search Bladesmith, and Smith is spelled with a Y. That was a great idea, by the way, Chris. We'll cover that next week at our live stream. And search Kickstarter Bladesmith, and there's a follow page. So please do follow. We will check if you're following as part of this giveaway. So click notify me on launch and get us to 200. All right.
So,
we're
yeah.
there.
If you guys are on not my Twitch, then come to twitch.tv/CREESArt, CREEESART. And then if you guys are already here, just type something again in chat, and then you'll be entered. So you just have to be active in chat. And if you're not sure, you could just type in something, and then you'll be entered. So far, there's 7 people: David Two, Peter Steves, Kevin P. West, K-Pop, Crispy Papa, Golf Boy, Jedi. And then we can wait a couple minutes, or like a minute, and then I can roll.
Try this. Do you want me to try this, Chris? Would this be a easier way? Just to here. Mary shared a tool with me. It's called Raffly. Have you seen this before?
No.
Okay, so I literally just cut and pasted the whole chat in there. And I think it's gonna be based on how chatty everyone was. Not based on the viewership. So all right, if you want in, this is your last call. Go in here and just write something under Born Into Comics. I'll cut and paste you guys in, and then we'll just run this. And so, yeah, if you want to throw in more chats, go for it. But
everybody spam Bladesmith.
Yep, there we go. All right, we're gonna run it. Spam. Yep, I like that. We got Golf Boy spam in there. David Sue chat. Oh wow, there's a lot of it now. All right. This is the last one. This is the last cut and paste. All right, that's it. K-pop spam one more time. All right, I want to cut that and paste in there. All right, let's start. Boom. One winner. Should I exclude duplicates? There's no duplicates. Let's see that. Let's see what that looks like. Looks fair. All right, let's do it. Confirm. All right, 189. So I don't think it's gonna exclude duplicates that much. So, all right, here goes, guys. Let's see who wins. It's a whole countdown and everything. Oh my god,
it's so legit.
That's awesome.
Who said that?
I don't know. Who said that?
Who said that?
I don't know. It's not very accurate.
I don't think it's the person's name.
I'm gonna go back and I'm going to start again. Oh shoot! What a fail. Who said that's awesome? All right, let's see if it runs again. Except this time I won't do the duplicates. All right.
Oh.
All right. Let's try one more time. I'm gonna do it until we get a name. Now Crispy Papa's throwing dots on. Now we're getting amazing.
Amazing.
I don't know if there's a tool to do it with.
Peter
but-
Steve said amazing, but I don't know if anybody else said amazing.
Who else said amazing? Did anyone say amazing? All right. Try one more time.
I can do it on my end. I can try on my end.
All right. Third time's a charm. Let's see.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't work and we don't get a name, then I think it's your turn. Because it might not be catching the names, actually.
Yeah, it might just
Oh,
be getting...
Dr. Midnight.
Oh,
Oh, we got one.
nice.
That's great.
Nice. Third
Nice.
time's a charm, Dr. Midnight.
Congrats.
Please email me. It's carl@247comics.com. Your mailing address, and then I will ship it out to you. Congratulations, 1 of 100. All right. Any closing words, folks?
Read 24/7 comics.
Yeah. I'm excited for the launch. Yeah. Next week, right?
Next week, the 11th. So February 11th.
Here.
Sean, you all come on and talk about the comic because you read it already, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I read 2 issues so far.
Perfect. We'll get you on as well, and then Mary will slot you in. But we're gonna do something very similar, where it's gonna be every half hour we'll have a special guest come give some commentary, feedback, etc. And then similar to what happened with you and Brian, we might have to send CREEES back to work for a few panels based on feedback. So that's part of what we do. I mean, we want our community to be involved, and I think we're doing this as a big family. So all your input is always well taken, and we want to make the best product for you guys. So thank you, folks, for making time. Sean, CREEES, stay on until we upload the stream, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank
Next
you, guys.
Tuesday, guys. Blade Smith.